Okay, now we're going to move on to some core concepts of evolutionary biology, starting with genetic drift. So a genetic locus is a single position on a chromosome, which can refer to a single nucleotide polymorphism, a gene, an intron or exon, or even a nucleoid from a prokaryote like mitochondria. In diploid species, there are two copies of a locus, one on each homologous chromosome, excluding some sites on the X chromosome that lack a homologous locus on the Y chromosome, just because the Y is a lot smaller, so it has fewer gene regions than the X chromosome. These loci tend to be discussed in terms of genes, and each version of a gene is called an allele. Evolution is the change in allele frequency over time, and this change in allele frequency can be directed by natural selection, where a selective pressure is changing the frequency of the allele, because let's say the allele codes for an adaptation, so an advantageous trait. Organisms with that adaptation are more likely to survive and reproduce, so they have more offspring in the next generation. Their offspring have their allele, so their allele increases in frequency in the next generation. And then you also have genetic drift, or the neutral theory of molecular evolution, where the allele frequency change between generations is due to just random chance. And the force of genetic drift is stronger in smaller populations. So if you see the two populations on the right, they're both kind of 1/3 purple fish, 2/3 yellow fish, but you can imagine, let's say 50% of both of these populations die, okay? It would be more statistically likely that the 50% of the smaller population on the left will include both of the purple fish, rather than the 50% killed on the right, including all of the purple fish in here. So basically this means in smaller populations, the effects of genetic drift are going to be more powerful, because if there are fewer individuals with a certain allele, their death is going to have a greater consequence on the allele frequency. So in the human genome, most mutations occur in the introns or extragenic regions of junk DNA, so they do not alter the phenotype. And most mutations that do occur in the 2% of DNA that codes for proteins are single nucleotide polymorphisms that tend to be neutral, synonymous, or non-synonymous mutations that, despite changing an amino acid, do not substantially alter the phenotype. So we have a lot of mutations going on all the time, but most of them don't really alter our phenotype. A more in-depth look at genetic drift. Genetic drift refers to changes in allele frequencies from one generation to the next that occur as a result of survival by chance, reproductive success, and inheritance. This allele change is random and not controlled by natural selection, and it occurs at every locus of every gene in every species all the time. If the force of genetic drift is greater than the selective advantage of an allele with a positive selective pressure, then it is possible for the naturally selected allele to go extinct, despite the fact that it has a positive selective pressure. Drift is unbiased, stronger in small populations, likely to cause variation in a population, as well as likely to cause loss of variation in a population if a allele becomes fixed. So a better explanation than what I put here, it just kind of makes more sense here. This is a fairly small population of butterflies shown on the right. You can see about a total of 12 blue butterflies and 4 maroon butterflies. Okay? It's far more likely that, say, something comes along and it kills some of these butterflies. Let's say one day all 4 of these maroon butterflies get eaten, they're killed, they get taken out of the population. The remaining population is all blue butterflies, and let's say that maroon is controlled by a dominant allele and blue is recessive. That would imply that there are none of the alleles responsible for the maroon color left in the surviving population once these 4 maroon butterflies are eaten. So any offspring produced by this population henceforth are all going to be blue. The blue allele has become fixed, and the maroon allele has gone extinct in this population. Now, you can imagine, even if the ratio of alleles are the same, so this would be 12 to 4. Even if the ratio is the same, this would be a fairly small population. If we were to take a very large population with thousands and thousands of butterflies, well, the probability of all of the maroon butterflies going extinct is a lot less probable, because they only went extinct due to random chance one day, because genetic drift is caused by random chance. The probability of all these butterflies that are making up about a quarter of the total population just all dying by chance is a lot less likely if there are lots and lots of these butterflies compared to if there are only a few. So large populations, because there's more of the individuals, the effects of random chance killing individuals with certain alleles, the effects of those butterflies with those alleles dying is not going to be as severe. So in a more extreme example, say you have a population with 3 blue butterflies and one maroon butterfly. If you were just walking and you accidentally step on one and you accidentally step on the maroon one, that's just random chance removing the maroon allele from the population. Now, if there were tens of thousands of butterflies and on the floor, and you accidentally step on a few, even if you killed like a decent amount of maroon ones, because there would be so many, the effects of you stepping on them would probably not make them go extinct, if that kind of makes sense. So, moving on to another idea called the sampling effect, which relates to genetic drift. Genetic drift being stronger in small populations is likely a result of the sampling effect. Basically, small samples are less likely to reflect the statistical frequencies, whereas large populations tend to be more consistent, averaging over many random events. For example, flipping 4 coins and getting all heads is far more probable than flipping 1,000 coins and getting all heads. Genetic drift is always acting on allele frequencies until one allele becomes fixed and the other allele goes extinct. All by chance, remember. Lost alleles that have gone extinct can, however, be replaced by new mutations or gene flow from other populations. The migration of a single cactus finch to Daphne major was observed by Peter and Rosemary Grant, and this cactus finch introduced so many new alleles to the native finch population that it caused a hybridization event and the production of a new bigbird species that became effectively isolated through generational inbreeding. So this is an example of gene flow between populations, because it's probable that the finches on the Galapagos Islands had lost a lot of these alleles due to genetic drift.